Now we will learn how to use the Rotavap. You'll notice I'm wearing gloves, goggles, flame retardant lab coat, long pants, and finally closed-toed shoes. First, we have the solvent collection bulb attached with a clamp. To release the bulb and remove it, first loosen the clamp and remove the flask. You notice there is no solvent in this flask. If there is, put it in the appropriate waste container. When you replace the flask, make sure to tighten the clamp. When we move up the Rotavap, we notice our condenser. This is isopropyl alcohol, which will be cooled using dry ice. To the left of the condenser are these two valves. This bottom valve allows for the release of vacuum by making the valve parallel to the tap. We will close this valve when we Rotavap. If we look to this upper valve, there's both out to the atmosphere and at the bottom down to the vacuum. Where this valve is pointing shows you whether you are open to the atmosphere or closed and under vacuum. For our purposes, we will leave it open to vacuum. If we travel down the condenser and over, we notice our solvent bump trap. Here, this is connected with a keck clip. To prevent bumping, make sure the flask you are using, such as this one, is not filled more than halfway. If it is, that can cause, during Rotavapping, solvent or product to come up through this tube and finally deposit in this bump trap bulb. To remove any product, just add some more of your solvent and dump it back into your flask. Make sure when you reattach your bump trap, you put on your keck clip. Now if we look up, we see the controls for the Rotavap. This top control panel is for the vacuum. This large number indicates what the system is currently at. Up top shows a number at which you want the pressure to be at. If this is not turned on, over here to the right behind this control, there is an on-off switch. Finally, if we look below, this is to rotate our sample. If we look to the bump trap, you'll notice how it is now rotating. This can go at different speeds. Finally, if we move down the Rotavap, we'll notice a hot water bath. This can be adjusted to several different temperatures, going as high as 95 degrees. Finally, we move over to our pump. Make sure that this green light is on. If it is not, your pump is not on. You notice you can barely hear the pump at all. That's normal for these types and this model. Now, before you start rotovapping, take your dry ice and add it to your condenser. First, remove the cap. And place in your dry ice. You notice the bubbling, showing that we're starting to cool our condenser. Now, place your cap back on. Take your flask and attach it to your bump trap. Before you let go, put on your keck clip. Now, you're ready to start rotavapping. Up here on your vacuum control, hit the start button and start rotating your flask. Notice that the pressure is rapidly decreasing. The Rotavap is used to lower pressure, which allows for solvents to boil at lower temperatures. We'll notice that the solvent will move up the bump trap and finally condense on your condenser and finally drip into your solvent collection flask. You can see that the dripping is just about to start. You want to make sure when you're rotavapping that the rate of the drips is not too slow, as in here, but not too fast that just a stream occurs. Your flask, when rotavapping, may become frosty, which can then allow you, using this lever, to lower your flask into our bath. Now, if we notice, we still see dripping, which will start to come at a faster rate. To know when you can stop rotavapping or you've removed all of your solvent, look for a decreased rate in your dripping or a solid or a liquid that is viscous that is left within your flask. One thing to point out is under vacuum, the solvent from your collection flask can then boil and condense on your condenser. To make sure that your sample has had all the solvent removed, you may take off your flask, empty out the solvent, replace it, and see if you observe any dripping. If not, then the rotavapping is complete. Now I will demonstrate how to take off your sample from the Rotavap. First, make sure that your flask is out of your bath. Next, turn down the rotation and hit the stop button on your vacuum controller. twice will allow the pressure to increase. To also release pressure, either move this bottom valve down or this top valve up. Now your system is open to the atmosphere. You can take off the KEK clip and finally, carefully remove your sample. Once that is complete, make sure with your controls to turn them off using the power buttons, and finally going down to your bath, turning this off as well. Make sure when you leave, take your collection flask, loosen your clamp, remove both, and empty your solvent into the appropriate waste container.